If you have a GM of a team that's not exploring all those options, what's he even doing?
Always follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
The draft itself is coming up in the NFL, 60 hours from right now, Paulie, live on the air. And Ross Tucker joins the program now. He is dynamite calling games, NFL analyst, podcasts on X, the whole thing. You can follow him there at Ross Tucker NFL. Get the Even Money podcast as well. He's on the Progressive guest line. Ross, good morning, pal. Thanks for the time today. How are you?
Yeah, my pleasure. Great to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
You bet. We talked about your tweet earlier on in the show. I think what you said yesterday on X sums up the state of the NFL draft at this point better than anybody else, when you basically said anything can happen. Just found out right now, breaking news. This team wants to trade up, yet they want to trade back. Hold on a second here. They might make a pick. It feels like we're getting more nonsense this year than ever before.
Yeah, I think that's just the nature of the animal, right? And I hope everybody knows that it's totally a joke. I wasn't actually talking to any team about that. Those are the only options. And by the way, if you have a GM of a team that's not exploring all those options, what's he even doing, right? I mean, if you're a GM of a team, you should at least do some legwork ahead of time to try to get an idea for what it would take to move up to certain spots for certain players, what it would take to move down if you don't like who's still on the board. I mean, these are things that you need to do ahead of time and do the legwork to see about what it would take to move around. Obviously, you're strongly considering who you think will be available there when you draft as well. That's a big part of it also. So it was a joke, of course. I didn't actually have a team tell me that. I don't need a team to tell me that. They're pretty much all doing that right now. And if they're not, what are they doing?
Mm-hmm. And the games begin at number 2. And once Washington makes the pick, then we could possibly see all these trades happen. And then when it gets pretty chaotic, do you agree with that? And then because I mean, Arizona said we're open for business, but we'll trade when we're on the clock.
Right. So it would be a major upset, I think, if the Commanders did not make a pick at number 2. I think where it gets a little bit interesting is the Patriots at 3. We all expect the Cardinals at 4 to trade down to, with somebody that wants to move up, whether it's the Vikings or the Broncos for that quarterback. But what if the Patriots do it? What if the Patriots say, you know what? We got a lot of holes to fill. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get a trade down. And maybe they feel like they can trade back up. Maybe they can feel like they can trade down to 11 and still get the quarterback that they want. Maybe it's Penix or Bo Nix or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios. I think we don't know who the Commanders will take it to. I strongly believe it's Jaden Daniels. And then at 3, that's when it gets interesting. I have a tough time picturing the Patriots passing on a quarterback, but if someone was able to sweeten the pot enough, it's certainly possible.
Well, is there a chance? Okay, I want to go back to something you said 2 seconds ago. What if they stay at number 3, Ross, but the pick is not quarterback? Who would it be at that point?
No, that's not happening.
Not going to happen. No chance.
I would bet a lot of money, and I'm on Follow the Money right now, that's not going to happen, right? I mean, if you're the Patriots, if you're taking a guy at 3, it's a quarterback. Otherwise, they're trading down, right? I mean, there's enough other good players at receiver or offensive line that they can trade down and still get a starter, but get a king's ransom from the Vikings or the Broncos or maybe even the Raiders for one of those teams to move up for one of these quarterbacks. So that would probably be the only scenario that would totally, utterly shock me, would be if the Patriots took somebody at 3 and it wasn't a quarterback. That's not happening. They're taking a quarterback at 3 or they're trading down.
Okay. Then, pretend the Cardinals trade out, like you said. Then in theory, the Chargers would be on the clock at number 5, assuming they stay put and don't move back. Who do they take?
That is a really interesting one. I do believe that there's a decent chance that they would strongly consider moving back, right? And still getting, an elite player, whether it's Brock Bowers or one of the receivers or an offensive lineman, but then maybe grabbing a few more second-round picks so that Harbaugh can bring in some more of these Michigan guys like Sanistrill or Junior Colson or whatever. So I think if it unfolds that way, I think there's a decent chance the Chargers trade down. If they don't, man, I still think it's offensive line. Unless this whole thing's been a smokescreen, right? About how important the offensive line is. They moved on from Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Or maybe they did that because they were setting up the fact that they knew they could take a receiver very high in this draft and get that position. That's one of the most fascinating spots to me, right? Because it feels like at that spot, the Chargers should take a receiver. They need a receiver. They've got Justin Herbert. But that also sort of would go against what it feels like Jim Harbaugh believes.
We talked to you during the college football season. You called all these big games, and you love Bowers. But with the way things are trending now with the tight end position, and we thought he was going to be a top 5 pick when he was dominated in college, the Jets are in win-now mode. He could be the pick there at 10. Maybe he could fall to Denver, or could the Bears shock the world at 9? What do you think? Where do you think Bowers goes, and how well he'll translate to the NFL game?
I think he will translate very, very well. I think if we just talked about him like he was a slot receiver and played slot receiver, I think if you just looked at his numbers and called him a slot receiver, he'd be one of the best receivers in the draft. I mean, what he was able to do at Georgia, guys, as a true freshman tight end, he led them in receptions. You go back and look at that team, they had like Jermaine Burton, Adonai Mitchell. I mean, they had a bunch of these guys that are going to get drafted pretty high in this draft. I think he's a phenomenal football player.
Yep.
I think people are overthinking it with this positional value stuff a little bit. I think he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowl caliber player, a difference. I mean, guys, look at the conference championship games. The Lions with Laporta, the Niners with George Kittle, the AFC championship game. You obviously had Travis Kelce. You have Mark Andrews for the Ravens. It's pretty clear that if you have a really good receiving tight end, that makes a huge impact on the rest of the offense. And, these playoffs proved it again. I think I'd be surprised. I think the floor for Bowers is 15 with the Colts, but that would surprise me. I think somebody else, whether it's the Jets or the Chargers or somebody else, drafts him before then.
Okay. The favorite for the Cowboys, and by the way, it's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Ross Tucker, on X, at Ross Tucker NFL, host of the Even Money podcast. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. Where the Cowboys are picking, the favorite here, Ross, is offensive line, but it's Jerry Jones. You know how he loves to have his toys on this team offensively. Would you be stunned if he goes in a loaded wide receiver class, if he goes with that position?
I don't think I'd be stunned by anything Jerry Jones does, other than I'd be stunned if he doesn't take a running back on Friday night. Day 2, rounds 2 and 3. They need a running back desperately. They're not going to take one in the first round, but I would imagine they would take one on Friday night, rounds 2 or 3. I think he's been better about it as of late, having CeeDee Lamb, having Brandon Cooks. I don't think he'll go there at receiver. I also think that'd be kind of sending the wrong message to CeeDee Lamb as it relates to his contract situation. So I would think offensive line in round 1 for the Cowboys. I'd be a little surprised if it's not.
As a man who played that position, offensive line, and there are a lot of them here who can go in the first round. I think that prop, by the way, is 9.5. Is Joe Alt clearly the best guy at that position, or is there somebody else that's pretty close to him?
Well, you know what it is? It's kind of like ice cream flavors, right? And I think we all have our own biases. And for me, I am biased towards offensive linemen that really get after people. that are really trying to physically punish them. So I love Talise Fuaga from Oregon State. I love Troy Fatanu from Washington. They're a little bit more the style that I like. I think Alt is probably a little bit more polished, and he's so young. I don't know if you guys have seen him. He looks like he's 15 years old. He's 21. He's got this baby face on this huge body. I think Alt will be the first guy off the board. He's probably not my favorite guy to watch, but he's probably the safest.
All right, Mother's Day is coming up. It's on May 12th. You've told us before about something that you're involved with. It's a great idea, awesome for this time of year. Go ahead, tell our audience why myfrontpagestory.com is such a great spot to go.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys know I'm passionate about it. First of all, the number one pick in every draft is your mom, okay? Moms are the greatest thing of all time. So get them something that they deserve. Get them something truly unique, cool, different for once this year. It's called myfrontpagestory.com. You talk to a writer for, 10 minutes while you're driving home from work, or you fill out an email. Guys, they write this unbelievable story. It looks like it's on the cover of the newspaper. It's framed. It's beautiful. And just being able to give it to your mom and say, Mom, I want to do something special. So I had a story written about you. I can almost guarantee that your mom will cry. I'll be shocked if she doesn't cry. Or get it for your wife. Nobody knows what to get their wife for Mother's Day. Myfrontpagestory.com. Myfrontpagestory.com.
Awesome, Ross, as always. Thanks for the time. Enjoy the draft.